Welcome to Wide World of News. I'm Mark Halperin. We're talking today about America's businesses grappling with all the changes that are going on. There's so much focus on the big things before the camera, but in meeting rooms, boardrooms, and consultants' offices all over the country, companies are figuring out how to deal with the present and then the short term, the long term, the medium term. Lots of questions being answered out there. We're going to talk about how some companies are handling the current decisions and choices that they face with my partner on these interviews. He's a Silicon Valley-based communications expert, dealing a lot with startups and tech. Head of Upright Position Communications, the founder, Paul Wilke. Paul, welcome.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm great. I want to start by asking you for an example of a company that you've seen be nimble. So many companies now are either frozen or making bad choices. I would love to hear an example that you know of a company that has done things right and made changes on the dime that seem to be working.
Well, I'm fortunate. Fortunately, we've got one of our clients has done it right. Next Insurance is a small business insurance company, and they were one of the first companies to announce that they were lowering their premiums for some of their small business customers. And they did that back in April. And then in May, one of the things they did was they actually announced that they were going to lower their premiums. But how it got there was a bit more interesting in the fact that they were about to roll out, before all this happened, they were going to roll out their national advertising campaign. So what they did is they actually recognized that it wasn't really tone appropriate to do that. So they actually canceled the ad program and put that money back into the discounts they were offering their customers.
And you intuitively know that's worked out well, or there's been feedback that's shown that it has?
Well, feedback's been very positive, and I think, but also intuitively, it's important too. One of the things that I'm really a big believer in is making sure you get the tone right for your audience, and that's really important.
We've seen so many of the national brands, again, thinking about strategy, communications, PR, have a bad time of it, have had false notes. I'd love you to pick out one national company, one national brand, and talk about somebody who's doing it wrong.
Well, I just saw one last night that really shocked me at how tone deaf it was. And Mark, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention names. Am I?
Name names.
Well, I was going to say it rhymes with Stacy's, but let's go with Macy's. They ran an ad a couple days ago that connected the Thanksgiving Day parade to giving thanks to medical workers, which is a great message. But Macy's is a company. They've been in the news so much about nearly going bankrupt or closing stores. It just feels like that's something they should be doing, investing that marketing money somewhere else, either keeping employees on board or offering discounts to shoppers and making sure that they're still afloat. That's important.
We've seen so many of the national brands like Macy's come out with ads during this time. And I'm just wondering, do you have a sense, are people focus grouping them or considering them or looking at different options less than usual because of the times we're in and they feel they need to rush something on the air?
It feels like people are rushing things. You look at ads, and you saw this early on, as sort of stay in place came in across the country, very quickly put together ads. I think I saw an environmental cleanup company was one of the first ones to actually have an ad that was devoted to COVID-19. Just as you see with news broadcasts, they're getting more technically on par with what you might see during the Super Bowl. But it feels like it's a smaller group of people thinking through the process of these ads.
And why are these companies rushing to advertise? Is it because they want to be part of the story, or they've already bought time? Why are these companies even on the air now?
I suspect it's a bit of both. I'd like to think it's because they've committed the ad space already. But they're and sometimes they do it right simply because it makes sense not to advertise the product or service that you normally would.
What's an example of that, of a national company doing it well?
I've been impressed with the ads Uber has done. They had a tough go of it a couple of years ago from a PR perspective, but their tagline in their ads, "Thank you for not using us," or "Thank you for not using Uber." It's one of those things that just hits as note perfect in terms of the times we're in right now.
And what principles or what points that you think are important for companies now does that illustrate? That it's compassionate, or it's simple, or what?
It's compassionate. It's avoiding hyperbole, and this is more of a PR problem than a marketing problem. But it's also remember your audience. Remember who you're talking to, where they are right now. Also remember it's not about you, and that goes back to the Macy's example. It's not about
Right.
them,
Right.
and don't feel like you need to tell them everything. We all know we need to wash our hands. We all know we need to wear a mask. I don't need a lawnmower company telling me to do that.
Right. We were talking before we started recording about another one of your clients, a local brewery there where you are, and how smart they've been in terms of pitch and message.
They've been great, and the company is called Mare Island Brewing, and it's down the road from my house, and they're just great guys. They're a small upstart brewery, and they do these email blasts that talk about what they're doing, and unfortunately they've gone, they've had to cut staff, but they're still in business, and they're telling their audience, they're telling their consumers, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing for you. They've got a restaurant where they've implemented proper takeout, social distancing initiatives, but they're also selling toilet paper and flour and eggs. And they're making sure that everyone knows that they're still there and they're still serving the community. And that's a message you can't go wrong with.
Yeah, it seems like from the stuff I've seen that they've done since the crisis started, that they've found a way to stay relevant and meaningful and important to their customers while being true to the themes of sort of the core aspects of their brand.
And that's important. You want to as a company, you want to sound like you always do. You want to communicate the way that's worked for you. It's important to be on brand. You don't want to sugarcoat, but you also don't want to overmarket the opportunity. And that's really what's important. You want your audience, whether it's a reporter or a reader or a potential customer, you want to feel like you're part of what they're doing.
They're all making so many choices now, and a lot's on the line. And of course, it's only just beginning because the terrain is going to keep changing. From Silicon Valley, where he runs the communication strategy PR firm that he founded, Paul Wilke, and Upright Position Communications. Paul, thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you for watching. We're going to have more Wide World of News discussions and interviews in the coming days. We appreciate your viewership. Thanks again.